As we mentioned previously that Sichos is something that the Rebbe said by Farbrengens and then turned into Dvar Torah after that. We see sometimes that there's a very gigantic difference between what the Rebbe said by Farbrengens and then what went on in the Sichos. Why is this?
As I explained before, because when he said the Sichos, he said the Nekudah, and sometimes, and many times, when you look into what the Rebbe said, you see there is much, much more than what he said. And sometimes he would even be meramis it, sometimes not, and you would later ask the Rebbe, and the Rebbe would say, sure, this is what he meant, so that becomes part of the Sichos. Or the Rebbe would ask Shilas, and the Rebbe would answer, and those truvas became part of the Sichos. And sometimes even one line could become 3 pages. I'll just give you an example. The Likutei Sichos, I'm talking about the Sichos, I wrote more, Chelik Yud Aleph. So after Farbrengens happened, it's a Rashi Sicha, but there's a lot of parts to this Rashi, and then there's Halacha. It's about the Yotzer Bacheret with the Egel. Anyway, so there, after Farbrengens, someone has the Rebbe gathered not from the official, someone has the Rebbe Shaila, and the Rebbe answered, and then the Rebbe wrote a word, and he wrote Al Pizeh Yuvta Yuven, this is this Rambam, and he quoted the Lashon word of the Rambam, and the Rambam says whatever, and 2 lines. Remember when I was working on the Sikh, I had this answer, because any answer you go, the Rebbe would answer somebody else. He would also, I wanted to Choizer to get a copy. So I remember looking at the answer, looking at those 2 lines, look at the line, look at the Rambam. The Rebbe just says, yeah, I didn't write with the look at the Rambam, there's the Rambam, the Takansa Kasha on the Rambam, and the Meforshim answer, and the interteresis, and then with the Rebbe, with this one word that he wrote here. But so what happened? So, and that's what the Rebbe meant. The Rebbe wrote here, he said, but the Rebbe didn't write. So when I wrote it up like that. This is this Rambam, but the Rebbe said, but the Rambam says this is a made, kasha. That takes up a whole page. The Rebbe didn't say those words and he didn't even write it, but that's exactly what he's saying. It's Alpizeh, Yuvan, this Rambam. The Rebbe is not writing to Amaratzi so that's what now you look at the Sikha. First of all, the whole thing is not there in the Sikha. The whole thing is not there in the Sikha. The whole Rambam isn't there, the whole thing. But it's because it's settled. The Rebbe wrote, he wrote that this is there, perhaps for the Sikha. And then, and even if you look at the settled, you say, oh, it's not about 2 lines, how to have the whole page. Those 2 lines is the whole page. It's more than a page, it's even more, but it's all there.
Yeah, we said before how that sometimes the Sichos were on the Perkei Avos. I went by the Perkei Avos. We say that it was also a Seder on the Geras Children. How did that start?
It's not over. The decision of the Vad. Since the Rebbe spoke so many Sichos on the Likutei Sichos, he spoke on the Geras Children B'chlal. It was 1 year there, he said every Farbrengens another piece of the Geras Children he learned. But then he learned his father's view on the Geras went piece by piece, Farbrengens, piece by piece. So the decision was to give them out to make them. So in the month of Elul, and Shuvah, so whatever. So it started and they made it week by week, and that was the Likud of the week. Later, but they made the Svarim, instead of putting it into the Parsha that it came out, which it doesn't have a connection to, so they made it separate in a sefer called Biurim L'Geras HaTshuvah Likutei Sichos. But it's just a decision of them, just like Perkei Avos, you have Geras HaTshuvah.
We see at the end of every Sikha, there's a tziyun of Sichos Parashas. Is there history to this?
Why do you ask if there's a history to it? Do you ask because you know something, or are you asking Stamaza? But it's a normal thing that when they have when the Rebbe said a Sikha, when you chose, you wrote from which Farbrengens you took it from. The Rebbe says there is something, but so I'm asking if it's something that you know. Because at one time, there was a Svara, I don't know if I ever told this to anybody, or anybody else knows about this. I don't know, maybe it's the first time I told maybe. At one time, there was a time that there was a svara not to write it. What's negate to write? What's the big deal? Why is negate to know? So we just went Farbrengens, one Likud, we didn't write anything at the end. There was an idea of the Sikha, and at the end of the Sikha, he made two parentheses. The place where we always would type this Sikha as this and this Farbrengens. So he put in the parentheses, fill in the date. So we knew he wanted the date. He wanted the date, so it's there. And I think a svara why he wanted the date. I really understand why. I'm just saying it's my own svara. I'm not saying anybody it's right or wrong. He wanted a date for a reason. Because when the Likud came out for that week, it would seem that this is the inyan that the Rebbe wanted this week should be worked on. which one Farbrengens, the Rebbe spoke, what inyan is the Farbrengens? Which he felt, I don't know, worried on Nashamayim or whatever, that this is the inyan was Dav Zachrei, this is the inyan which I negate the heroes, and this is the Basmonza this week. Here, the people chose which Psicha, and if it comes out just without a date, as if you're saying, this is what the Rebbe is giving out for this week. It's not so. So if it says Misicha, so this is giving out a keta from a Sicha from this Farbrengens from 20 years ago, it could be. But otherwise, it could be that's the reason he wanted, so it should be clear that this is not what the Rebbe himself is saying. In this Indian. There could be more reasons also.
Yeah, we see at the end of every volume of the Likutei Sichos that there is softness. What exactly is it, and what does it need to be put in?
Well, it all started when there were Farbrengens that were mugi from before, and it wasn't in the part of the Likutei Sichos instead in this Seder of the Sichos. It should become part of a Sefer. Like this, it's a Sichos of Gedolah. So the first volumes they took and they put it in because they seemed to fit it to some parasha. Maybe that's all these softness, and then they took also letters. It was all the decision of the Vad. So every time there is people have collections of letters, different things, shaykhs or parashas, it shouldn't get lost. There were no igras then. It shouldn't get lost, and it should be printed. People will have access. So we put it in the back. And anything that was mugya, the lav hocha would be put into the back, and it became a sofas. It came sometimes the sofas are bigger than the sefer itself, because there was so much available then to put in. So what we do, before the sefer came out, give it to the Rebbe, everything. And the Rebbe usually would not magiyah. Sometimes they would ask some shaylas, maybe a certain thing like this. But that became the surface. It was just mainly by the choice of the people who worked on it. There were a few times I can tell you that there were masichas, that was magiyah, not as Seder Likutei Sichos. But actually, I was the one that asked in ourselves that it should go into a parsha. So my taina was, and again, this is my personal thing, which I always had, and I said, a sikha that's in the regular Seder of Likutei Sichos under a parsha. People have access to it. You know, this is parsha. You have Likutei Sichos. You have the hisofes already make it look like secondary. So there could be sichas with ganze biyurim and inyonim that people won't make the fuss. So elamai, most of the sichas and the hisofes are not like the signet of the sichas. You ask a kasha and it goes like a beer. So belongs to, but there's some time that was like for other occasions, but it was so much like this. The sichas I felt. Let's put it into the order of the sichas in the parsha, even though it wasn't. I'll give you an example. In Chelik Yud, there's a sicha on Chanukah. The Rebbe said that sicha by Farbrengens, then there was sicha was given in. There was magiyah. It has nothing to do with the sichas. There was magiyah for whatever reason. That went into the proper place with the sichas Chanukah, which normally would have gone into the surface. And there were a few sichas like that for that reason. But most of the time, it's the sichas that the Rebbe said not in the order of the sichas. Just so that's when the back and letters of things that shaykhs for the parashas are in Yonim.
And the Marmakonis who helped them?
Well, the simple Marmakonis that Rebbe wanted. The Bach should write, and you need the Rebbe to spend his time to write down that this is a posik in this parasha, this is a gemara in this place, and obviously, or even some very simple Marmakonis, deeper things, that's what the Rebbe would write. Sometimes it would come from shaylas that we asked the Rebbe, and sometimes he would write to the Rebbe, is this Marmok, and the Rebbe would say yes, that would become a horror. But the simple ones, definitely, the Rebbe was, sometimes you missed something, the Rebbe was upset, why you should have thought of that Maramokim yourself. Actually, in the Rayon that I just gave to Kfar Chabad, I mentioned that there was one that was a Rashid that was not mentioned in the Maramokim. I could even tell you what it was. It says in the Sikha that Knani means also a merchant, a Seiche. It's a posik. Knani biyodei meiznim yimmer, but it's a Rashi in Chumash. And the Rebbe was upset why we didn't say from the Rashi, we didn't write the Rashi. And the Rebbe wrote, Hayim af echad mem einu leim chitas. So I'm saying, because the Rebbe wanted, when you need to give him his job should be to just sit down and the Chala, the Rebbe, the way I understand, we were inside the room, that if he'd ever write a Maramokim, he wouldn't write it till he would take the Gemara and look it up. Not that, because you know, if you're writing it to print, he would, so in how time they would have to spend if you just have to write the Maramokim and get him now Chavdal or Moshel. But to go and take the Gemara, why waste his time? No, it's not the Maramokim, it's the simple Maramokim, the Rebbe would check it over, I mean, the Rebbe would not, yeah. Oh, there was, what this the people used to write it, they used to also send it to somebody else to also look it over and to see, you know, because sometimes another person, when you're involved yourself, you can't tell your mistakes, so you can't, sometimes you think it's clear written, because in your mind, you're working so clear. You have to have somebody from the outside that didn't work on it to look at it, somebody who's a Talmud Chacham, somebody who was able, so we send it to the mail every week, and he used to look at it, and he used to give his orders. Certain things that this is not clear, this, and he would even come up, the Rebbe could be meant something else, because he knows in our Maimer that if you look at that Maimer, then you understand that the Rebbe meant something much deeper than what you think, or something different. Oh, that would be made of the people, and then they would work on it as the Rebbe, whichever case was.
You would send it to him before the Rebbe?
No, after the Rebbe, no. As soon as it got to the Rebbe, that was it. The Rebbe would tell me there's nothing that you could do, nothing. If you want, if somebody, sometimes it happens that maybe there's something else you want to know, the only thing to do is what? Write to the Rebbe, or the Rebbe would say yes, or the Rebbe would say no, whatever it is, but you can't, after the moment it went into the Rebbe's hands, it's the Rebbe's now.
Okay, thank you very, very much.